The Milan warship's celestial blade pierces Earth's atmosphere, its imposing silhouette dwarfing the cities below. Princess Yuna of the Milan Empire stands on the bridge, violet eyes narrowed in disdain as she surveys the blue planet. Earth, long mocked by Milan elites as a death world, now hosts her reluctant diplomatic visit. Turbulence rocks the ship as it descends. Milan crew members stumble, but Yuna remains steady, her royal poise unshaken. The vessel touches down outside New York City, where human representatives await. Commander Philip Gordon, a decorated Earth Space Fleet veteran, stands at attention, ready to serve as the princess's liaison. The ship's ramp lowers. Yuna emerges, her ethereal beauty momentarily stunning the onlookers. Iridescent skin shimmers in the sunlight. Flowing garments defy gravity. Her expression, however, betrays barely concealed contempt. Philip steps forward, extending his hand. Yuna hesitates, then accepts. The touch sends an unexpected jolt through Philip's body. The princess launches into her prepared speech, melodic voice laced with condescension. "We admire humanity's tenacity in surviving such a hostile world," Yuna declares, her words diplomatically correct, yet dripping with superiority. Tension rises among the human delegation. Philip, sensing danger, intervenes. "Perhaps we should proceed with the tour, Your Highness?" They board a high-speed maglev train bound for the coast. Yuna continues her assault on Earth's reputation. "Your primitive technology is quaint," she remarks, eyeing the train's interior. "Though I suppose it's impressive, given your savage ecosystems." Philip grits his teeth, countering with facts about human resilience and ingenuity. "Our primitive technology has allowed us to thrive in conditions that would challenge even the Malone, Your Highness." Their verbal sparring fills the train car with palpable tension. Other passengers shift uncomfortably, sensing the clash of cultures and ideologies. As the maglev speeds toward the coast, Yuna gazes out the window. The landscape blurs past, a patchwork of urban sprawl, farmland, and wilderness that defies her preconceptions. She frowns, confused by the complexity of this world she dismissed as a backwater. Little does the Malone princess know that her greatest shock is yet to come. The train crests a final hill, and suddenly, the vast expanse of the Atlantic Ocean fills the horizon. Yuna's eyes widen, her usual composure cracking at the sight of Earth's mighty waters. Philip notices her reaction and allows himself a small smile. He knows that Yuna's encounter with Earth's oceans will challenge everything she thought she knew about this death world and its inhabitants. The princess's journey of discovery is only beginning, and with it, the potential for a profound shift in intergalactic relations. As the maglev slows, approaching the coastal station, Yuna remains transfixed by the ocean view. For the first time since her arrival, genuine curiosity replaces contempt in her expression. Philip prepares for the next phase of the tour, knowing that the princess's preconceptions about Earth are about to be shattered, one wonder at a time. The maglev train glided to a halt at the coastal station, its sleek form coming to rest against the backdrop of the vast Atlantic. Yuna remained transfixed by the ocean view, her earlier disdain replaced by a mixture of awe and curiosity. Philip watched her reaction with quiet satisfaction, knowing that the next phase of their tour would challenge her preconceptions even further. "Your Highness," Philip said, gently interrupting her reverie, "we've arrived at our next destination." Yuna blinked, composing herself. "Of course, Commander. Lead on." They disembarked, stepping onto a platform, overlooking the churning waters below. The salty breeze ruffled Yuna's iridescent garments, causing them to shimmer in the sunlight. Despite her best efforts to maintain her aloof demeanor, Philip noticed her eyes darting about, drinking in the unfamiliar sights and sounds of Earth's coastal environment. "I suppose your primitive transportation is adequate for such short distances," Yuna remarked, her tone lacking its earlier bite. Philip suppressed a smile. "We do our best with what we have, Your Highness." A woman in a crisp white lab coat approached them, her dark hair pulled back in a neat bun. "Welcome to the Atlantic Coastal Research Facility," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Dr. Elena Martinez, lead scientist here." Yuna hesitated for a moment before accepting the handshake, her delicate fingers brushing against the scientist's calloused palm. "A pleasure, Doctor," she said, her melodic voice tinged with genuine interest. Dr. Martinez's eyes sparkled with excitement. "We're honored to have you here, Your Highness. We've prepared a demonstration that I believe will interest you greatly." The group followed Dr. Martinez into the facility, passing through corridors lined with advanced monitoring equipment and holographic displays. Yuna's gaze lingered on each piece of technology, her expression a mix of skepticism and grudging respect. They entered a vast observation deck, its curved window offering an unobstructed view of the Atlantic. Dr. Martinez activated a holographic display, filling the air with a shimmering representation of Earth's marine ecosystems. "As you can see, Your Highness," Dr. Martinez explained, manipulating the hologram with practiced ease, "Earth's oceans are home to an incredibly diverse array of life forms." Yuna stepped closer, her violet eyes widening as she took in the complexity of the underwater food chains and ecosystems. "This is unexpected," she murmured, almost to herself. Dr. Martinez smiled. "We've only scratched the surface of understanding our oceans, but today we're taking a significant step forward in preserving and restoring these vital ecosystems." With a few taps on her control panel, Dr. Martinez initiated the experiment. A swarm of microscopic robots, barely visible to the naked eye, deployed into the water below. Yuna leaned forward, pressing her hand against the glass as she watched the nanobots disperse. "These nanobots are designed to clean microplastics and other pollutants from the water," Dr. Martinez explained. "Watch closely." As the minutes ticked by, the water began to visibly clear. Previously unseen marine life started to emerge, small fish darting through the newly cleaned waters. Yuna's composure cracked, her mouth falling open in astonishment. Philip seized the opportunity. "Your Highness, what you're witnessing is just one example of humanity's efforts to restore and protect our planet. We may not have the advanced technology of the Milan Empire, but we've learned to work with our environment, not against it." Yuna turned to him, her expression softening. I may have been hasty in my judgment, Commander." Before Philip could respond, a pod of massive, bioluminescent whales surfaced near the facility. Their bodies glowed with an otherworldly blue light, casting eerie patterns across the waves. Yuna gasped, pressing both hands against the glass. "What are those creatures?" she breathed, her voice filled with wonder. "Bioluminescent whales," Philip answered, stepping closer to her. "They're one of Earth's most magnificent species." Yuna turned to him, her eyes shining with an intensity he hadn't seen before. "I want to see them up close. Can we go swimming?" Philip hesitated, aware of the security protocols and potential risks, but the earnest expression on Yuna's face made his decision for him. "Of course, Your Highness. I'd be happy to accompany you." They quickly changed into appropriate swimwear, with Yuna's alien physiology drawing curious but respectful glances from the facility staff. As they stood at the water's edge, Yuna suddenly looked uncertain. Our oceans are nothing like this," she admitted. Philip offered his hand. "Don't worry, Your Highness. I'll be right beside you." They entered the water together, Yuna gasping at the cool touch of the Atlantic. Philip gently guided her, teaching her how to float and move in the unfamiliar environment. Their physical proximity sent a jolt of electricity through him, and he couldn't help but notice the grace of her movements, even in this alien element. Underwater, they encountered a school of vibrant tropical fish. The colorful creatures swarmed around them, creating a living kaleidoscope. Yuna reached out, her fingers brushing against sleek scales. Her laughter, transmitted through their communication devices, filled Philip's ears, causing his heart to race. As they surfaced, gulping in the salty air, a sudden rogue wave caught them off guard. Philip saw Yuna struggling against the current and immediately sprang into action. With powerful strokes, he cut through the water, reaching her in moments. "I've got you," he said, wrapping an arm around her waist and pulling her to safety. They found themselves in a tight embrace, faces inches apart, breathing heavily from the exertion and the intensity of the moment. Yuna's violet eyes locked with Philip's, a new understanding passing between them. Before either could act on the growing tension, an alarm blared from the research facility. They quickly swam back to shore, where Dr. Martinez awaited them with a grave expression. "We have a situation," she said urgently. The nanobots have malfunctioned. They're replicating out of control and could potentially disrupt the entire marine ecosystem. Yuna, still catching her breath, straightened her posture. "Perhaps I can help," she said, her voice filled with newfound commitment. Malin technology might be able to counter this threat. As they rushed back into the facility, Philip couldn't help but marvel at the transformation in Yuna. The princess who had arrived on Earth with such disdain now stood ready to defend its oceans. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew that their shared experience had forged a connection neither of them had anticipated. The alarm continued to blare as they entered the control room, the holographic displays now a chaotic swirl of red warning signals. The next few hours would test not only their ability to work together, but also the newfound understanding between their two worlds. Species. The next few hours would test not only their ability to work together, but also the newfound understanding between their two worlds. As they burst into the control room, the cacophony of alarms assaulted their ears. Dr. Martinez's fingers flew across holographic interfaces, her face etched with concern. "The nanobots are replicating exponentially," she reported, her voice tight. "They're consuming microorganisms essential to the ocean's ecosystem. At this rate, we could be looking at a catastrophic collapse within hours." Philip leaned over the display, his eyes hardened. "Conventional containment methods?" "Useless," Dr. Martinez replied, shaking her head. "The swarm is too widespread, too adaptive." Yuna stepped forward, her violet eyes scanning the data streams. "Perhaps," she began, then paused, weighing her words carefully. "We might be able to use a modified electromagnetic pulse to disable the nanobots without harming organic life." Philip turned to her, eyebrows raised. "That's brilliant, but do we have the technology to generate such a precise pulse?" Dr. Martinez shook her head. "Not with our current equipment." A moment of heavy silence fell over the room. Then Philip's eyes lit up. "Your ship," he said, turning to Yuna. "Could we retrofit its energy weapons to create the EMP?" Yuna hesitated, her inner conflict visible on her face. Sharing such advanced technology with humans was strictly forbidden by Milan law. But as she looked at the desperate faces around her, at the swirling chaos on the monitors, she made her decision. "Yes," she said firmly, "I'll contact my ship immediately." As Yuna spoke with her crew, Philip and Dr. Martinez huddled over the workstation, calculating the exact specifications needed for the EMP. Their fingers brushed occasionally as they worked, each touch sending a jolt through Philip's body. The Malin engineering team arrived swiftly, led by Chief Engineer Zorn. The grizzled alien's face was a mask of disapproval as he surveyed the human facility. "Princess," he growled, "surely you don't intend to share our superior technology with these primitives." Yuna drew herself up to her full height, her voice cold. "Need I remind you, Chief Zorn, of the diplomatic consequences should Earth's oceans be irreparably damaged during our visit? We will assist, and that's final." Zorn's shoulders slumped in defeat. "As you command, Your Highness." The next hour was a flurry of activity as human and Malin technologies were fused together. Philip found himself working closely with Yuna, marveling at her quick mind and adaptability. She, in turn, was impressed by his intuitive grasp of alien concepts. As they connected the final components, their hands met over a delicate piece of Malone circuitry. Their eyes locked, and for a moment, the chaos around them faded away. Philip felt his heart race, acutely aware of her nearness, the faint shimmer of her iridescent skin. The moment was broken by Dr. Martinez's urgent voice. "It's ready, but we have a problem. The EMP must be deployed underwater, at the epicenter of the swarm. The depth and pressure make it impossible for human divers." Without hesitation, Yuna stepped forward. "I'll do it. My physiology can withstand the conditions." "Absolutely not," Philip protested, grabbing her arm. "It's too dangerous. We'll find another way." Yuna placed her hand over his, her touch unexpectedly gentle. "There is no other way, Commander, and you know it. My people's actions helped create this crisis. It's only right that I help solve it." Their gazes held for a long moment, unspoken emotions passing between them. Finally, Philip nodded, his voice hoarse. "Be careful down there." As Yuna prepared to enter the small Malone submersible, Philip approached her once more. He took her hand, his grip firm and warm. "What you're doing, it's incredibly brave. You've shown more dedication to Earth's welfare than I ever expected. Thank you." Yuna squeezed his hand, a small smile playing on her lips. "Perhaps your world has more to offer than I initially thought, Commander." With that, she entered the submersible. Philip watched from the control room as the craft descended into the murky depths, his heart pounding with every crackle of the communication system. Approaching the target zone, Yuna's voice came through, strained with static. "The swarm, it's interfering with my systems." Philip leaned towards the microphone. "You can do this, Yuna. We're all right here with you." The submersible pushed deeper, creaking under the immense pressure. Alarms blared as it reached the deployment point. "Activating the EMP now," Yuna announced. A brilliant pulse of energy rippled through the water. Then silence. Long, agonizing seconds ticked by with no signal from the submersible. Philip's knuckles were white as he gripped the console. "Come on, Yuna," he whispered. "Come back to us." Suddenly a ping from the sensors. "Submersible ascending!" Dr. Martinez called out. Philip raced to the dock, arriving just as the craft broke the surface. The hatch opened, and Yuna emerged, looking exhausted but triumphant. Without thinking, Philip pulled her into a tight embrace, their wet bodies pressing together. "You did it," he breathed, his relief palpable. Yuna relaxed into his arms, her usual composure forgotten in the wake of their shared victory. As they pulled apart slightly, their faces were mere inches apart, the tension between them electric. But before either could act on the moment, cheers erupted from the gathered humans and Milans. Dr. Martinez approached, her expression a mix of excitement and concern. "The EMP was successful," she reported. "The nanobots have been neutralized. But there's something else. The incident has triggered unprecedented changes in the local marine ecosystem. We're seeing strange new life forms emerging, hybrids of Earth species, and the remnants of the nanobots." Philip and Yuna exchanged a look of wonder and apprehension. This development would challenge both human and Milan's scientific knowledge, opening up new avenues for collaboration and potential complications. As they stood at the edge of this new frontier, Yuna's hand found Philip's once more. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, representatives of two worlds drawn ever closer by crisis and shared purpose. Triumph. As they stood at the edge of this new frontier, Yuna's hand found Philip's once more. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, representatives of two worlds drawn ever closer by crisis and shared purpose. In the days that followed, the research facility buzzed with unprecedented activity. Scientists from Earth and Milan worked side by side, analyzing data and observing the rapid changes in the local marine ecosystem. Philip and Yuna found themselves at the center of it all, coordinating efforts and bridging the gap between human and alien perspectives. One afternoon, as they pored over holographic displays of newly emerged hybrid lifeforms, Dr. Martinez burst into the room, her eyes wide with excitement. "You need to see this," she said, gesturing for them to follow. In the main laboratory, a large tank dominated the space. Inside, a school of fish swam in mesmerizing patterns, their scales gleaming with an otherworldly metallic sheen. As they moved, faint pulses of electricity arced between them, creating a living light show. "Incredible," Yuna breathed, pressing her hand against the glass. "The nanobots have somehow merged with their genetic structure, enhancing their natural bioluminescence." Philip leaned in closer, his shoulder brushing against Yuna's. "But what are the long-term implications? Could this spread to other species?" Before Dr. Martinez could respond, a gruff voice cut through the air. "That's precisely what we need to find out, and quickly." Chief Engineer Zorn strode into the lab, his expression a mixture of fascination and concern. Over the next few weeks, a joint human-Malon research team was assembled, with Yuna and Philip appointed as co-leaders. They established a floating research platform near the site of the nanobot incident, equipped with cutting-edge technology from both worlds. As they worked side by side, Philip couldn't help but notice the change in Yuna. Gone was the haughty princess who had first arrived on Earth. In her place stood a dedicated scientist, her violet eyes alight with curiosity and determination. Their shared experiences had forged a bond that transcended their different origins. One evening, as they prepared for a deep-sea expedition to observe a newly discovered hybrid creature, Philip found Yuna alone on the observation deck. She stood silhouetted against the setting sun, her iridescent skin shimmering in the fading light. "Nervous about the dive?" he asked, moving to stand beside her. Yuna turned to him, a small smile playing on her lips. "Excited, actually. I never imagined I'd find Earth's oceans so captivating." Their eyes met, and Philip felt a surge of warmth in his chest. Before he could respond, an alarm blared from the nearby console. "Unusual energy readings detected," the computer announced. "Unknown life form approaching research platform." They rushed to the control room, where Dr. Martinez was already pulling up holographic displays. "It's massive," she reported, her voice tense. "Unlike anything we've seen so far." On the screens, they watched as a colossal shape moved through the water. It resembled a whale, but its body was covered in metallic scales that pulsed with blue-green light. As it approached the platform, tendrils of energy crackled around it, interfering with their sensors. "We need to get a closer look," Yuna said, already moving towards the airlock where their diving suits were stored. Philip nodded, following close behind. "Agreed, but we need to be careful. We don't know what this creature is capable of." As they descended into the depths, the massive hybrid whale came into view. Its presence was overwhelming, a fusion of nature and technology that defied easy categorization. Philip and Yuna swam closer, their helmet cameras capturing every detail of the extraordinary being. Suddenly, Yuna's suit began to malfunction. Warning lights flashed inside her helmet as her oxygen levels dropped rapidly. Without hesitation, Philip moved closer, removing his own helmet and pressing it against hers. Their faces were mere inches apart as they shared his oxygen supply, making their way slowly back to the surface. In that moment of crisis, as they clung to each other in the alien-altered ocean, something shifted between them. The professional boundary they had maintained began to crumble, replaced by a deeper, more personal connection. Back on the platform as they caught their breath and shed their diving gear, Philip found himself unable to look away from Yuna. Her usual composure was shaken, her hair damp and tousled, her eyes wide with the lingering adrenaline of their close call. He reached out, his hand gently cupping her cheek. "Yuna, he began, but was cut off by the sharp beep of an incoming transmission. On the main screen, the stern face of a Malone official appeared. "Princess Yuna," the alien said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "The High Council demands your immediate return to the homeworld. Your extended contact with humans has raised concerns. You are to undergo the purification ritual at once." As the transmission ended, Philip turned to Yuna, his heart sinking. She stood rigid, her face a mask of conflicting emotions. The choice before her was clear: her duty to her people or her growing connection to Earth and to him. Before either could speak, another alarm sounded. The energy-manipulating whale had returned, and this time it was headed straight for the research platform. As they rushed to address this new crisis, the unspoken tension between them hung in the air, a testament to the challenges that lay ahead, both for their mission and for their feelings for each other. The alarm's shrill cry jolted Philip and Yuna into action. They rushed to the control room, where holographic displays flickered to life, revealing the massive form of the energy-manipulating whale as it approached the research platform. "All hands, brace for impact." Philip's voice boomed over the intercom. The creature's pulsing, metallic body filled the screens, its size dwarfing their facility. Dr. Martinez's fingers flew across the console. Energy readings are off the charts. It's like nothing we've ever seen before. Yuna leaned in, her eyes narrowing as she studied the readouts. The nanobots have integrated with its biological systems far more extensively than we anticipated. This creature is a marvel of nature and technology combined. The platform shuddered as the whale's electromagnetic field collided with their shields. Warning lights flashed, and Chief Engineer Zorn growled in frustration as he worked to stabilize their systems. "We need to do something fast," Philip said, turning to Yuna. "Any ideas?" Before she could respond, a new alert pinged on the communications array. Yuna's face fell as she recognized the signal. "It's a Malin diplomatic vessel," she said, her voice tight. "They're hailing us." The main screen split, one half still tracking the whale's movements, while the other displayed the stern visage of a Malin official. His eyes narrowed as he spotted Yuna. "Princess Yuna," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "I am Prince Zorx, sent by the High Council to escort you home immediately. Your extended contact with humans has raised serious concerns. You are to undergo the purification ritual at once." Yuna's posture stiffened, her royal training taking over. "Cousin Zorx, I appreciate your concern, but we're in the middle of a crisis. There's a—" "No excuses," Zorx cut her off. "You will return to the ship now, or face severe consequences." The transmission cut out, leaving a tense silence in the control room. Philip looked at Yuna, seeing the conflict in her eyes. But before either of them could speak, the whale let out a haunting cry that reverberated through the platform's hull. "We don't have time for political squabbles," Dr. Martinez interjected. "That creature needs our attention now, or we risk losing control of the entire situation." Philip nodded, his mind racing. "Agreed. We need to get closer. Try to understand what we're dealing with." He turned to Yuna, his expression softening. "I know you have responsibilities to your people, but right now, we need you here. Will you help us?" Yuna hesitated for a moment, then squared her shoulders. "Of course. My duty extends beyond just the Malon Empire. We started this together, and we'll see it through." Within minutes, a team was assembled. Philip, Yuna, Dr. Martinez, and Chief Engineer Zorn boarded a specialized submersible, a fusion of human and Malon technology. As they descended into the depths, the massive form of the whale came into view, its body pulsing with blue-green light. "I'm dubbing this thing the Nano whale," Dr. Martinez said, her voice filled with a mix of awe and trepidation. "It's growing larger by the minute." As they approached, the Nano whale emitted a powerful electromagnetic pulse. The submersible's systems flickered, alarms blaring. "Shields failing!" Zorn shouted, his hands flying over the controls. Philip gripped the helm, fighting to maintain control. "Yuna, can you reroute power from the Malon systems?" Yuna nodded, her fingers dancing across the alien interface. "On it!" Their teamwork paid off, stabilizing the vessel. As they drew closer, the true nature of the Nano whale revealed itself. It wasn't a single entity, but a collective of smaller hybrid organisms working in perfect synchronization. "Fascinating," Dr. Martinez breathed. "It's like a living supercomputer." Suddenly, the Nano whale's movements changed. It began to emit patterns of light and energy pulses that seemed almost deliberate. Yuna's eyes widened. "It's trying to communicate." Using a combination of Earth's understanding of marine biology and Malon communication technology, they established a rudimentary link with the creature. The information that flowed back was staggering. "It's not intentionally hostile," Yuna translated, her voice filled with wonder. "The nanobots and its biological systems are in conflict. It's struggling to control its own evolution." As they worked to stabilize the nano whale, a transmission from above cut through their focus. Prince Zorx's face appeared on a small screen, his expression thunderous. "Princess Yuna, this is your final warning. Return to the ship immediately, or I will be forced to take drastic action. The research platform's destruction would be regrettable, but necessary to ensure your compliance." Yuna's expression resolute, her eyes flashing with a fire Philip had never seen before. She straightened, every inch the royal air, as she addressed her cousin. "Prince Zorx, as heir to the Malone Empire, I order you to stand down. The situation here is far more critical than you realize. Any aggressive action on your part could have catastrophic consequences for both our worlds." Zorx's face contorted with rage, but Yuna cut the transmission before he could respond. She turned to Philip, her expression a mix of tenacity and uncertainty. "I may have just started an interstellar incident," she said, "but it bought us some time. Let's make it count." Philip nodded, a surge of admiration filling his chest. "You heard the princess?" he said to the team. "Let's save this whale. Nano whale and save Earth's oceans." The team worked tirelessly, decoding the complex signals emitted by the hybrid creature. As they made progress, the submersible's proximity alarm blared. Through the reinforced viewports, they saw the Malin diplomatic vessel descending towards them, its sleek form cutting through the water with ease. "They're not giving up," Philip muttered, his jaw clenching. Yuna's eyes narrowed. "Neither are we." The submersible's communication system crackled to life, and Prince Zax's face appeared on the screen. His expression was a mix of fury and frustration. "Princess Yuna, your defiance has gone too far. I'm here to escort you back to the surface and then to our homeworld. This is not a request." Before Yuna could respond, the nano whale emitted a powerful pulse of energy. The Malon ship's systems flickered, momentarily disrupting their approach. Dr. Martinez gasped, "It's protecting us!" Seizing the opportunity, Yuna addressed her cousin. "Zax, you're witnessing history in the making. This creature represents a breakthrough in both science and interspecies cooperation. I implore you to give us more time." Zax's expression wavered, uncertainty creeping into his eyes. "The High Council demands your return. I cannot disobey their orders." "Then let them see what we've discovered," Philip interjected. "Surely the potential benefits outweigh any political concerns." A tense silence followed as Zax considered their words. Finally, he spoke. "You have 48 hours. After that, I must insist on your return, Yuna." Relief washed over the team as the transmission ended. They refocused their efforts on communicating with the nano whale, using a combination of Earth's marine biology techniques and Milan technology to establish a more sophisticated link. As they worked, Philip couldn't help but notice the grit in Yuna's eyes. Her royal training, combined with her scientific curiosity, made her a formidable presence. He found himself drawn to her more than ever. Hours passed, and gradually, they began to decipher the nano whale's complex language of bioluminescent patterns and electromagnetic pulses. What they discovered left them awestruck. "It's not just cleaning the oceans," Dr. Martinez explained, her voice filled with wonder. "It's actively restoring entire marine ecosystems. The nanobots have given it the ability to break down pollutants and reconstruct damaged coral reefs at an unprecedented rate." Yuna's eyes widened. "This could revolutionize our approach to environmental restoration on both our worlds." As they continued to gather data, a new alert sounded. Chief Engineer Zorn frowned at his console. "We're detecting multiple smaller energy signatures spreading out from the nano whale." "It's replicating," Philip realized, "creating offspring to expand its reach." The implications of this discovery sent a ripple of excitement and concern through the team. They quickly returned to the research platform to share their findings and develop a plan of action. On the observation deck, scientists and diplomats from both Earth and Malin gathered to discuss the situation. The debate was intense, with some arguing for the controlled expansion of the nano whale population, while others expressed concern about the potential ecological impact. Yuna stood before the assembled group, her presence commanding attention. "We have an unprecedented opportunity here. The nano whales could restore our oceans to a state of health not seen in centuries, but we must proceed with caution and careful monitoring." Prince Zax, who had joined them on the platform, spoke up. "And what of the risk to other worlds? If this technology spreads beyond Earth, the consequences could be dire." Philip stepped forward, an idea forming. "What if we create a joint Earth-Milan task force? We could monitor and control the nano whale population while studying both its benefits and potential risks. This could be a chance for our species to work together on a project of galactic importance." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Even Zax seemed to consider the proposal seriously. As the meeting concluded, Philip and Yuna found themselves alone on the observation deck. The setting sun painted the sky in brilliant hues, reflecting off the ocean's surface. "You were amazing in there," Philip said softly, turning to face her. Yuna met his gaze, her violet eyes filled with a mix of emotions. "We make a good team." The air between them crackled with unspoken tension. Slowly, Philip reached out, his hand gently cupping Yuna's cheek. She leaned into his touch, her eyes closing briefly. "Yuna, Philip began, but words failed him. Instead, he closed the distance between them, pressing his lips to hers in a passionate kiss. For a moment, the universe seemed to fade away. They clung to each other, the barriers of species and duty momentarily forgotten. But their blissful interlude was shattered by the shrill sound of an alarm. They broke apart, reality crashing back into focus. Dr. Martinez's voice came over the intercom, urgent, intense. We're detecting multiple nano-whale offspring approaching major coastal cities worldwide. The changes to ocean currents and weather patterns are accelerating. We need everyone in the control room now. Philip and Yuna exchanged a look of shared commitment. Their personal feelings would have to wait. Right now, the fate of two worlds hung in the balance. As they raced to the control room, the enormity of the situation began to sink in. The nano-whale's ability to purify water and restore marine ecosystems was occurring on a global scale, causing unforeseen changes that could have far-reaching consequences. Yuna felt the weight of her royal responsibilities pressing down on her. She knew she would soon have to make a choice between her duty to her people and her growing commitment to Earth. As they entered the bustling control room, filled with frantic scientists and worried diplomats, she steeled herself for the challenges ahead. The main screen displayed a map of Earth, dotted with rapidly moving points of light representing the nano-whale offspring. As they watched, more alarms began to sound, signaling the detection of unusual weather patterns and shifts in ocean currents. Dr. Martinez looked up from her console, her face pale. The nano-whales are changing the planet's ecosystems faster than we can track. We need to find a way to slow them down before... Her words were cut off by the crackle of an incoming transmission. The stern face of a Malin High Council member filled the screen, his expression grave. Prince Zax, Princess Yuna, the counselor intoned, we have received reports of the situation on Earth. The High Council has declared the planet a potential threat to galactic stability. You are hereby ordered to prepare for a possible quarantine of Earth, effective immediately. The control room fell silent, the implications of the counselor's words hanging heavy in the air. Yuna felt her heart racing, torn between her duty to her people and her growing bond with Earth, and with Philip. As the gravity of the situation settled over them, Philip stepped forward, his voice steady despite the tension. Counselor, with all due respect, a quarantine would be premature. We're on the verge of a breakthrough that could benefit not just Earth, but potentially the entire galaxy. We just need more time to study and control the nano-whales. The Malong counselor's eyes narrowed. You have 24 hours to present a viable solution, or we will have no choice but to isolate Earth for the safety of the galactic community. As the transmission ended, Yuna turned to face the assembled team, her expression resolute. We need to find a way to satisfy both Earth's environmental needs and the Malon Empire's security concerns, and we need to do it fast. Philip nodded, meeting her gaze with drive. Then let's get to work. We have a planet to save and a galaxy to convince. With renewed purpose, the team dove into their research, racing against time to unravel the mysteries of the nano-whales and find a solution that would preserve the delicate balance between two worlds. As they worked, the future of Earth-Malon relations and Philip and Yuna's budding relationship hung in the balance, waiting to be shaped by the outcome of their desperate efforts. The control room buzzed with frantic activity as scientists and diplomats raced against time to find a solution. Yuna's eyes darted between the screens displaying the rapidly spreading nano-whale offspring and the worried faces of her colleagues. She knew she had to act decisively. I need to contact the High Council directly, she announced, her voice cutting through the chaos. We need more time, and I believe I can convince them. Philip nodded, admiration clear in his eyes. Do what you need to do. I'll coordinate our efforts here. As Yuna left to make her call, Philip turned to address the assembled team. Listen up, everyone. We're establishing a global network of research stations to monitor and study these nano-whale offspring. I need every available scientist on this now. The room erupted into a flurry of activity as researchers began reaching out to their contacts worldwide. Philip's decisive leadership galvanized the team, their efforts gaining momentum with each passing minute. Meanwhile, Yuna stood before a holographic projection of the Malon High Council, her posture regal despite the pressure weighing on her shoulders. Honorable council members, she began, her voice steady, I propose a compromise, a joint Earth-Malin task force to study and control the nanowhale phenomenon. This technology could benefit both our worlds if properly understood and managed. The council members exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of skepticism and intrigue. After a tense moment, the lead counselor spoke. Your proposal has merit, Princess Yuna. We will grant a temporary stay on Earth's quarantine while we consider your suggestion. You have 72 hours to demonstrate progress. Relief washed over Yuna as the transmission ended. She rushed back to the control room, where Philip was coordinating the global research effort. We have a chance, she said, joining him at the main console. The council's granted us more time. Philip's face lit up with a grin. Then let's make every second count. As the hours ticked by, reports flooded in from coastal cities worldwide. The nano whale offspring were purifying water and restoring marine ecosystems at an unprecedented rate. However, these rapid changes were also disrupting established weather patterns and ocean currents. Dr. Martinez approached Philip and Yuna, her face etched with concern. We're detecting some unusual readings from the newer nanowhale generations. They seem to be evolving. Before they could process this information, an alert sounded from one of the monitoring stations. The technician's voice crackled over the comm system, panic evident in his tone. Command, we have visual confirmation. The nanowhales, they're coming out of the water. Philip and Yuna exchanged a look of disbelief before springing into action. We need to capture one for study, Philip said, already moving towards the equipment bay. Yuna, can you assist? She nodded, falling into step beside him. Let's do this. They assembled a small team and set out in a high-speed hovercraft, following the coordinates provided by the monitoring station. As they approached the shoreline, they saw it, a sleek, silvery form undulating across the sand, leaving a trail of purified earth in its wake. Incredible, Yuna breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. Philip maneuvered the craft closer, but as they prepared to deploy the capture net, the creature turned towards them. Its body pulsed with an eerie blue light, and suddenly all their equipment went dark. Electromagnetic pulse! Philip shouted, wrestling with the now unresponsive controls. The craft lurched, sending them stumbling into each other. Yuna found herself pressed against Philip's chest, their faces inches apart. For a moment, the chaos around them faded away, replaced by the thundering of their hearts. We need to manually restrain it, Yuna said softly, her breath warm against Philip's skin. He nodded, reluctantly pulling away. Right. Let's move. They worked in tandem, using their bodies and whatever functioning equipment remained to corral the creature. The physical exertion and proximity only heightened the tension between them, stolen glances and lingering touches punctuating their efforts. Finally, they managed to secure the evolved nanowhale offspring in a containment unit. As they transported it back to the research platform, Yuna and Philip found themselves sitting close, their shoulders touching. We make a good team, Philip said, echoing Yuna's words from earlier. She smiled, a mix of emotions playing across her face. We do. But Philip, we need to be careful. There's so much at stake. He nodded, understanding the weight of their positions and the complexities of their budding relationship. One step at a time. Right now, let's focus on what this new development means for Earth and the galaxy. As they approached the research platform, they saw a crowd gathering on the observation deck. Scientists, diplomats, and now a new group, Milan officials who had arrived to assess the situation firsthand. Yuna straightened her posture, once again donning the mantle of princess and diplomat. Philip watched her transformation with a mix of admiration and longing, knowing that their personal feelings would have to wait. They disembarked, the contained nano-whale offspring, drawing gasps and murmurs from the assembled crowd. As Yuna began to address the officials and Philip coordinated with the research team, a new alert sounded. Unidentified spacecraft entering Earth's orbit, a technician called out, her voice tense. Philip and Yuna locked eyes across the crowded deck, both realizing that their challenges were a long way to go. The arrival of this new player would undoubtedly complicate an already volatile situation. As the unknown ship descended through the atmosphere, Yuna felt the weight of her responsibilities pressing down on her. She knew that the decisions made in the coming hours would shape not only her future, but that of Earth and the entire galactic community. With a deep breath, she stepped forward to face whatever new challenges awaited them, Philip moving to stand beside her. Together, they prepared to navigate the uncharted waters of interstellar diplomacy and unravel the mysteries of the evolving nanowhales. Nanowhales. As the unknown ship descended through the atmosphere, Yuna felt the weight of her responsibilities pressing down on her. She knew that the decisions made in the coming hours would shape not only her future, but that of Earth and the entire galactic community. With a deep breath, she stepped forward to face whatever new challenges awaited them, Philip moving to stand beside her. Together, they prepared to navigate the uncharted waters of interstellar diplomacy and unravel the mysteries of the evolving situation. The sleek, angular spacecraft touched down on the landing pad, its dark surface reflecting the setting sun. A hush fell over the assembled crowd as the ship's main hatch opened with a hiss of compressed air. A delegation of tall, humanoid figures emerged, their iridescent skin shimmering in the fading light. Zorx, Yuna whispered to Philip, her eyes wide. I've heard stories, but I've never seen them in person. Philip nodded, his expression resolute. Let's hope they're here to help, not complicate things further. As the Zorx approached, the lead figure stepped forward, its multifaceted eyes scanning the crowd. I am Emissary Krell of the Zorx Confederation. We come seeking the technology that has caused such interesting changes to your world. Yuna stepped forward, her regal bearing on full display. Emissary Krell, I am Princess Yuna of the Malone Empire. We welcome you to Earth, but I must inform you that the situation here is complex and delicate. Krell's head tilted, a gesture that might have been curiosity or amusement. Complex and delicate indeed. The Zorx Confederation believes this nanowhale technology could be a universal resource. We demand access to study and utilize it. Philip felt the tension in the air ratchet up several notches. He moved to stand beside Yuna, addressing the Zorx emissary directly. Emissary, I'm Commander Philip Gordon, representing Earth's interests. We're still in the process of understanding this technology ourselves. Perhaps we could discuss this further in a more formal setting? Krell's multifaceted eyes seemed to flicker. A formal setting? Yes, that would be appropriate. We propose a summit to address this matter. The Zorx Confederation will not be denied access to such a potentially valuable resource. As the Zorx delegation retreated to their ship to make arrangements, Philip turned to Yuna, his expression grim. We need to act fast. If we don't take control of this situation, Earth could become a battleground for interstellar politics. Yuna nodded, her mind already racing. We'll need to organize a global summit. New York City would be the ideal location, neutral ground with the infrastructure to host multiple alien delegations. Over the next few days, Earth became a hive of activity. Diplomats and scientists from around the world converged on New York, joined by representatives from the Malone Empire and the Zorx Confederation. The city's skyline, already a mix of human and Malone architecture, now featured the stark geometric shapes of Zorx structures. As the summit approached, Philip found himself thrust into a leadership role, heading Earth's delegation. He spent long hours coordinating with world leaders, scientists, and security experts, ensuring Earth presented a unified front. Yuna, representing the Malone Empire, faced her own challenges. She received troubling news from her homeworld. Her father, the Emperor, had fallen ill. Whispers of a potential power struggle within the royal court reached her ears, adding to the weight of her responsibilities. The night before the summit, Philip found Yuna on the balcony of their hotel, her eyes fixed on the distant stars. Hey, he said softly, joining her at the railing. Big day tomorrow. Yuna turned to him, her expression a mix of willpower and vulnerability. Philip, I received news from home. My father is ill. There's talk of instability in the court. Philip's heart sank. He reached out, taking her hand in his. I'm so sorry, Yuna. What do you need? She squeezed his hand, drawing strength from his touch. I don't know. My duty to my people, my commitment to Earth, my feelings for you, they're all pulling me in different directions. Before Philip could respond, a commotion in the street below caught their attention. A group of protesters had gathered, their signs decrying alien influence on Earth. The chants grew louder, more aggressive. Philip's communicator buzzed. "Sir, we have reports of similar protests breaking out across the city," a security officer reported. "I'm on my way," Philip replied, already moving toward the door. He paused, looking back at Yuna. "We'll figure this out together, I promise." As Yuna watched him go, she felt the weight of her choices pressing down on her. The summit loomed, bringing with it challenges that would test not only their diplomatic skills, but also the strength of their growing bond. Relationship. The summit loomed, bringing with it challenges that would test not only their diplomatic skills, but also the strength of their growing bond. As the protests below intensified, Yuna and Philip found themselves thrust into the heart of Earth's rapidly changing role in the galactic community. The following weeks were a whirlwind of negotiations, scientific breakthroughs, and cultural clashes. The influx of alien technology and knowledge caused ripples across Earth's societies. Some regions embraced the changes with open arms, while others resisted fiercely. New York City, the epicenter of this interstellar confluence, became a microcosm of humanity's diverse reactions. Philip's days were filled with endless meetings and strategy sessions. He coordinated with world leaders, scientists, and security experts, working tirelessly to present a unified front for Earth. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him, but he found strength in the moments he shared with Yuna. One evening, as they walked through a holographic display of Earth's oceans, Dr. Elena Martinez approached them with a concerned expression. "Commander Gordon, Princess Yuna, we've detected some alarming behavior from the nano whale offspring." Philip frowned. "What kind of behavior?" Dr. Martinez manipulated the hologram, zooming in on several ocean locations. "They're exhibiting signs of heightened intelligence and aggression. We're calling them alpha whales. They've started forming hierarchical structures within their pods." Yuna studied the display intently. This could disrupt Earth's marine ecosystems, not to mention the potential danger to human maritime activities. "Exactly," Dr. Martinez nodded. "We need to investigate further." Philip straightened his shoulders. "I'll lead a task force. We need to understand what we're dealing with and develop containment strategies." Days later, Philip found himself aboard a research vessel in the Pacific Ocean, studying an alpha whale pod. The ship's crew worked efficiently around him, their movements practiced and precise. Dr. Martinez stood beside him on the observation deck, her eyes fixed on the water. "They're beautiful, but terrifying," she murmured. Suddenly, alarms blared across the ship. A massive form breached the surface, water cascading off its silvery body. The alpha whale, larger than any they'd encountered before, slammed into the vessel's hull. "Brace for impact," Philip shouted, grabbing onto a railing as the ship lurched violently. The attack was swift and brutal. The alpha whale's powerful body battered the research vessel, causing significant damage. Crew members scrambled to maintain control, but several were injured in the chaos. As quickly as it began, the attack ended. The alpha whale disappeared beneath the waves, leaving behind a damaged ship and a shaken crew. Philip helped Dr. Martinez to her feet. "Are you all right?" She nodded, wincing slightly. "I'm fine, but this changes everything." News of the attack spread rapidly. Protests erupted in coastal cities around the world, with citizens demanding the removal of all alien technology from Earth's oceans. The delicate balance Philip and Yuna had worked so hard to maintain began to crumble. In a high-security conference room, Philip faced off against military leaders pushing for drastic action. "We can't just eliminate them," he argued passionately. "The potential benefits of this technology are too great to ignore. We need a measured approach." Meanwhile, Yuna grappled with her own challenges. In a secure communication with her homeworld, she learned of her father's worsening condition. The Malin court was in turmoil, and her presence was increasingly required. Torn between her duties, Yuna proposed a bold solution. She approached Philip and Dr. Martinez with a determined look in her eyes. "We can use advanced Malin bioengineering techniques to create a new generation of nano whales, ones that can control and potentially neutralize the alpha whales." Philip's eyes widened. "That could work, but the political implications—" "I know," Yuna nodded. Sharing this technology won't be easy, but it might be our best chance. As they debated the merits of Yuna's plan, an urgent message came through. An alpha whale pod was approaching the coast of Japan, causing widespread panic. Philip sprang into action. We need to redirect them. I'll lead a joint human-alien team. Hours later, Philip found himself on a ship off the coast of Japan, coordinating a complex operation. Human marine biologists worked alongside alien technicians, attempting to guide the alpha whales away from populated areas. The operation seemed to be working until a massive alpha whale suddenly changed course. It charged directly at Philip's ship, its powerful body easily capsizing the vessel. Philip was thrown into the churning water. He struggled against the waves, the taste of salt sharp in his mouth. As he fought to stay afloat, he saw the silvery forms of alpha whales circling beneath him. Just as his strength began to fail, a sleek shape cut through the water toward him. A Malin submersible, its design far more advanced than anything Earth possessed. The hatch opened, revealing Yuna at the controls. "Philip," she called out, "grab my hand." He reached out, their fingers interlocking. With a surge of strength, Yuna pulled him into the cramped submersible. They sat there, breathing heavily, their bodies pressed close in the confined space. "You saved me," Philip said softly, his eyes locked with Yuna's. "Always," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. The tension between them, built up over weeks of shared challenges and stolen moments, finally broke. Their lips met in a passionate kiss, the danger they'd just survived intensifying every sensation. As they surfaced, reality came crashing back. They were greeted by a mix of cheers and concerned murmurs. The sight of the Malon princess risking her life for a human had not gone unnoticed. In the days that followed, Philip and Yuna worked tirelessly on their plan to create the Omega whales. The research platform buzzed with activity as human and alien scientists collaborated on an unprecedented scale. Just as they prepared to test the first prototype Omega whale, Yuna received an urgent message from her homeworld. Her father's condition had deteriorated rapidly. Her presence was required for a crucial ceremony that could determine the future of the Malon Empire. Philip and Yuna stood on the observation deck, the weight of their responsibilities hanging heavy between them. The prototype Omega whale swam gracefully in a containment tank below, unaware of the turmoil surrounding its creation. "I have to go," Yuna said, her voice tight with emotion. "My people need me." Philip nodded, understanding but unable to hide his disappointment. "And Earth needs you too. We all do." As they gazed out at the vast ocean, the future seemed as turbulent and unpredictable as the waves below. The nano whale crisis, the political tensions, and their own deepening relationship all hung in a delicate balance. With Yuna's impending departure, that balance was about to be tested like never before. The weight of their impending separation hung heavy in the air, mingling with the salt spray and the faint hum of alien technology. "Yuna," Philip began, his voice barely audible above the lapping waves, "I understand you have to go. Your people need you." Yuna's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I wish I could stay, Philip. The Omega Whale Project, our work here on Earth, it means everything to me. But my father—" She trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Philip reached out, gently cupping her face in his hands. For a moment they stood there, forehead to forehead, drinking in each other's presence. "I'll oversee the final stages of the Omega Whale development," Philip promised. "We've come too far to let it falter now." Yuna nodded, a small smile breaking through her sorrow. "Thank you. I know I can trust you with this." As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the research platform, the reality of their situation set in. Yuna's ship was prepared for departure, its sleek form a stark contrast to the utilitarian human vessels nearby. Dr. Elena Martinez approached, her lab coat fluttering in the ocean breeze. "Princess Yuna, Commander Gordon, I have some promising news. Our latest tests show the Omega whale's capacity to emit calming pheromones and low-frequency sounds. It's effectively pacifying the alpha whales in controlled settings." Yuna's eyes lit up. "That's incredible progress, Dr. Martinez. I only wish I could stay to see it through." "We'll keep you updated," Philip assured her. Now you should prepare for your journey. The following hours passed in a blur of activity. As Yuna made her final preparations, Earth's scientific community redoubled their efforts on the Omega Whale project. Philip found himself caught in a whirlwind of briefings, each update filling him with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. As night fell, Philip and Yuna found themselves alone in her quarters. The room was sparse, most of her belongings already packed away. They came together in a passionate embrace, their kisses tinged with desperation and unspoken fears. "I don't know when I'll be able to return," Yuna whispered against Philip's neck. He pulled her closer, his hands tracing the familiar curves of her body. "I'll be here, Yuna, no matter how long it takes." Their lovemaking was intense, both acutely aware that this could be their last time together for a long while. As they lay tangled in each other's arms afterward, the reality of their situation settled over them like a heavy blanket. Morning came too soon. As Yuna's ship prepared for launch, global sensors detected a massive surge in alpha whale activity across multiple oceans. Philip's communicator buzzed incessantly with reports and requests for guidance. On the launch pad, Philip and Yuna shared one final embrace. "Be safe," he murmured into her hair. "You too," she replied, her voice thick with emotion. "Take care of our Omega Whale." As Yuna's ship lifted off, streaking into the early morning sky, Philip felt a piece of himself go with her. He allowed himself a moment of vulnerability, watching until the ship was nothing more than a distant speck. Then, squaring his shoulders, he turned back to the research facility. There was work to be done. Over the next few days, reports of increased alpha whale activity flooded in from around the globe. Coastal cities worldwide reported sightings and aggressive behavior, disrupting maritime trade routes and sending shockwaves through the global economy. In a high-security conference room, Philip faced a panel of grim-faced officials. "The alpha whales are coordinating their movements," he explained, gesturing to a holographic display of the world's oceans. "We've never seen behavior like this before." Admiral Chen, a stern woman with graying hair, leaned forward. "What are our options, Commander Gordon?" Philip took a deep breath. "I believe our best course of action is to release the Omega Whale prototype." A murmur ran through the room. Dr. Martinez spoke up, her voice cautious. "Commander, while our tests have been promising, we haven't had the chance to observe the Omega Whale's behavior in an open ocean environment. There could be unforeseen consequences." "I understand the risks," Philip acknowledged, "but with the alpha whale crisis escalating, I don't see that we have much choice." After hours of debate, the decision was made. Under Philip's supervision, the Omega Whale prototype was transported to a release point in the Pacific Ocean. As the creature slipped into the water, its silver-blue body gleaming in the sunlight, Philip felt a mix of hope and trepidation. Initially, the results were promising. Nearby alpha whales responded positively to the Omega Whale's presence, their aggressive behavior noticeably diminishing. Philip allowed himself a moment of relief, but it was short-lived. Within days, reports began coming in of unexpected behaviors from the Omega Whale. It was using its advanced intelligence to manipulate ocean currents and marine life in ways the scientists hadn't anticipated. While these actions seemed to be having a positive effect on the marine ecosystem, they raised new ethical and ecological concerns. As Philip grappled with these developments on Earth, his thoughts often strayed to Yuna. He wondered how she was faring on her homeworld, unaware of the growing crisis that awaited her return. On the Malan homeworld, Yuna stepped off her ship into a world of intrigue and tension. The Imperial court was a hive of activity, with various factions vying for influence in the wake of her father's illness. As she made her way through the ornate corridors of the palace, Yuna could feel the weight of countless eyes upon her. Her extended absence on Earth and her close ties to humans had not gone unnoticed. "Princess Yuna," a silky voice called out. She turned to see Lord Vex, one of her father's advisors, approaching. "How kind of you to grace us with your presence at last." Yuna straightened her spine, meeting his gaze coolly. "I came as soon as I received word of my father's condition, Lord Vex. How fares the Emperor?" A flicker of something, disappointment, crossed Vex's face. "His Imperial Majesty is stable for now, but the succession ceremony must proceed. Our people need reassurance in these uncertain times. As Yuna delved deeper into the political quagmire of the Imperial court, she found herself longing for the relative simplicity of her work on Earth. The factions within Malan society were deeply divided. Traditionalists opposed any further cooperation with Earth, while progressives supported closer ties. Yuna's unique perspective, shaped by her experiences on Earth, became a focal point of debate. In private meetings and public forums alike, she found herself defending her vision for the future of Malan-Earth relations. We cannot ignore the potential benefits of collaboration, she argued passionately during one heated debate. The advancements we've made in the Nano project alone, advancements that primarily benefit the humans, a traditionalist counselor interrupted. What of our own people, Princess? Have you forgotten them in your fascination with Earth? The words stung, but Yuna refused to be cowed. She drew herself up, channeling the leadership skills she had honed on Earth. I have forgotten nothing, counselor. Our collaboration with Earth strengthens both our peoples. Isolation will only lead to stagnation. As the days passed and the succession ceremony drew near, Yuna found herself at the center of a political storm. She navigated the complex rituals and maneuverings of the Imperial court, all while trying to gather support for her vision of the future. But even as she fought for her beliefs, a part of her heart remained on Earth. In quiet moments, she found herself wondering about Philip, about the Omega Whale project, about the life she had left behind. Little did she know that events were unfolding on Earth that would soon force her to confront the true depth of her divided loyalties. Loyalties, the weight of her responsibilities to both her people and Earth, pressed down upon her, a constant reminder of the delicate balance she sought to maintain. As Yuna grappled with the political intricacies of the Malan court, events on Earth took a dramatic turn. The Omega Whale, once a beacon of hope, had become a source of growing concern. Philip stood before a wall of screens, each displaying real-time data from various oceanic regions. His brow furrowed as he studied the rapidly changing patterns. Commander Gordon, Dr. Martinez's voice cut through his concentration. We've detected another significant shift in the Pacific currents. Philip nodded grimly. Show me. A holographic globe materialized before them, swirling patterns of blue and green illustrating the ocean's movements. The Omega Whale's influence was clear. Vast swaths of water redirected in ways never before seen in nature. It's affecting weather patterns now, Dr. Martinez explained, her voice tight with worry. We're seeing increased storm activity along the coast of Asia and anomalous temperature fluctuations in the Atlantic. Philip ran a hand through his hair, the weight of responsibility settling heavily on his shoulders. We need to convene an emergency meeting with the Global Task Force. This situation is escalating faster than we anticipated. Hours later, Philip found himself facing a panel of grim-faced world leaders via holographic conference. The atmosphere was tense, accusations flying as each nation grappled with the environmental and economic impacts of the Omega Whale's actions. This creature of yours is disrupting global agriculture, the representative from India exclaimed, his holographic form flickering with agitation. We demand immediate action. Philip held up his hands, trying to calm the growing storm of voices. I understand your concerns. We're working around the clock to find a solution that doesn't involve destroying the Omega Whale. Its potential benefits to our planet's ecosystems are immeasurable if we can just find a way to control its actions. As the debate raged on, Philip's thoughts strayed to Yuna. Her expertise in Malan biotechnology could be the key to resolving this crisis. But with no word from her since her departure, he felt adrift, lacking a crucial piece of the puzzle. Little did Philip know that on the Malan homeworld, Yuna was facing her own battles. The princess stood before the Imperial Council, her posture rigid as she faced a barrage of accusations. Your extended time on Earth has clouded your judgment, Princess Yuna. Lord Vex's voice dripped with disdain. How can we trust that your loyalties still lie with your own people? Yuna's eyes flashed with indignation. My experiences on Earth have only strengthened my commitment to the prosperity of the Malan Empire. Our collaboration with humans has opened doors to advancements we've only dreamed of. A murmur rippled through the council chamber. Yuna could sense the division among the members, some nodding in agreement, others scowling with disapproval. Prince Zax, her cousin, stepped forward. His sleek form and piercing gaze commanded attention. Honorable council members, I propose that Princess Yuna be declared unfit for succession. Her contamination by human influence poses a threat to the purity of our leadership. Gasps and exclamations filled the chamber. Yuna felt as if the floor had dropped out from beneath her feet. She opened her mouth to protest, but the sudden commotion drowned out her words. As chaos erupted in the council chamber, a junior aide slipped quietly to Yuna's side. "Princess," he whispered urgently, "there's a transmission from Earth. It's marked as highest priority." Yuna's heart leapt. Could it be Philip? Had something happened with the Omega Whale project? She nodded to the aide, discreetly following him out of the chamber, as the debate raged on behind her. In a secluded communication room, Yuna activated the encrypted channel. Her anticipation turned to confusion as she saw not Philip, but a stern-faced Earth official on the screen. "Princess Yuna," the woman began, her tone clipped and formal. "I regret to inform you that Earth has decided to terminate its cooperation with the Malon Empire. All joint projects, including the Nano Whale Initiative, are to be discontinued effective immediately." Yuna staggered back, her knees going weak. This couldn't be happening. After everything they had accomplished together, how could Earth simply cut ties? And Philip? Had he known about this? As the transmission ended, Yuna leaned against the wall, her world spinning. She had sacrificed so much for the alliance between their species, and now it seemed to be crumbling around her. Unbeknownst to Yuna, this message was part of a larger deception, orchestrated by those who opposed Earth-Malon cooperation. The truth of the situation on Earth, the critical need for her expertise with the Omega Whale crisis, remained hidden from her. Back on Earth, Philip made a decision that would change the course of both their lives. He approached the newly formed Interstellar Relations Committee with a bold proposal. "Send me to the Milan homeworld," he stated, his voice firm with grit. "As an official ambassador, I can re-establish communication with Princess Yuna and secure the assistance we desperately need." The committee members exchanged uneasy glances. "Commander Gordon," one of them spoke up, "you realize the potential diplomatic ramifications of such an action? We have no established protocols for sending human ambassadors to alien worlds." Philip nodded, his eyebrows furrowed. "I understand the risks, but with the Omega Whale situation spiraling out of control, we're running out of options. We need Yuna's knowledge of Malon biotechnology." After hours of debate and deliberation, the committee reluctantly agreed. Within days, Philip found himself aboard a sleek spacecraft, hurtling towards Malon space. As his ship approached the outer reaches of the Malon system, a patrol vessel intercepted them. The communication screen flickered to life, revealing the face of Prince Zax. "Unauthorized Earth vessel." Zax's voice was cold. "You are not welcome in Malon space. Turn back immediately." Philip straightened, projecting an air of authority despite the nervous fluttering in his stomach. "I am Commander Philip Gordon, official ambassador from Earth. I invoke my right to an audience with the Malon leadership on matters of urgent interplanetary importance." Zax's eyes narrowed, but Philip could see the prince's mind working. Denying an official ambassador could have serious diplomatic repercussions. After a tense moment, Zax nodded curtly. "Very well, Ambassador. You will be escorted to the Imperial Palace. But be warned, any deviation from diplomatic protocols will be met with severe consequences." As Philip's ship was guided towards the Malon homeworld, he steeled himself for what lay ahead. He had no idea of the political minefield he was about to enter, nor of the emotional turmoil awaiting both him and Yuna. The fate of two worlds now rested on his ability to navigate the treacherous waters of Malon politics and reconnect with the woman he loved. As he stepped off the ship onto Malon soil, Philip's heart raced with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. The alien world's unfamiliar atmosphere and the weight of his mission pressed upon him as he was escorted through the grand corridors of the Imperial Palace. Meanwhile, Yuna paced in her chambers, her palms sweating from the false transmission she had received. The sudden termination of Earth-Malon cooperation felt like a betrayal of everything she had worked for. As she wrestled with her conflicting emotions, A knock at her door startled her from her thoughts. "Princess Yuna," a royal attendant bowed, "your presence is required in the grand debate chamber immediately. An Earth ambassador has arrived." Yuna's eyes widened in surprise. An Earth ambassador? Could it be? She hurried from her room, her heart pounding with each step. As she entered the ornate chamber, her gaze immediately locked onto a familiar figure. Philip stood there, looking somewhat out of place in his Earth attire amidst the resplendent Malon officials. Their eyes met across the room, a silent exchange of relief and longing passing between them. Lord Vex's voice cut through the moment. "Princess Yuna, Ambassador Gordon, the High Council has convened to address the matter of Earth-Malon relations. The debate will commence shortly." Yuna and Philip found themselves side by side as they prepared for the crucial debate. In hushed tones, they quickly exchanged information about the events that had transpired since their separation. "The Omega Whale situation has become critical," Philip explained urgently. "We need your expertise, Yuna. The transmission you received was false. A ploy by those who oppose our alliance." Yuna's brow furrowed as she processed this information. "And I've been facing my own battles here. My cousin, Prince Zax, is pushing for isolationism. He's even challenged my fitness for succession." They shared a look of understanding, both realizing the enormity of what lay before them. As the debate was called to order, Yuna felt Philip's hand briefly brush against hers, a gesture of support and solidarity. Prince Zax took the floor first, his voice resonating through the chamber. "Esteemed council members, we stand at a crossroads. The question before us is clear. Do we maintain the purity and strength of the Malone Empire, or do we allow ourselves to be diluted by alien influence?" His words were met with murmurs of approval from the traditionalist faction. Zax continued, his argument painting a picture of a strong, independent Malon society, free from the complications of interspecies cooperation. When it was Yuna's turn to speak, she rose with a quiet commitment. "Honored Council, my time on Earth has shown me the true potential of collaboration. Our differences are not weaknesses to be feared, but strengths to be harnessed." She went on to outline the advancements made through the Nano Whale project, emphasizing the benefits to both Earth and Malon society. As she spoke, Philip noticed a shift in the council members' expressions, from skepticism to intrigue. The debate intensified, with arguments flying back and forth. Philip contributed his perspective, offering insights into Earth's challenges and the potential for mutual growth through cooperation. Suddenly, the chamber doors burst open. A messenger rushed in, his face pale with urgency. "Forgive the interruption, but we've received critical news from Earth. The Omega Whale's influence has reached catastrophic levels. Coastal cities worldwide are under imminent threat." The room erupted into chaos as counselors argued over the implications of this news. Yuna and Philip exchanged a grave look, understanding that their time was running out. In the midst of the uproar, a hush fell over the chamber as a frail but regal figure entered. The Malon Emperor, Yuna's father, made his way to the central podium, his steps slow but purposeful. "My people," his voice, though weakened by illness, carried the weight of centuries of wisdom. "I have listened to the arguments presented today, and I am reminded of a truth I have learned over my long reign. Strength does not come from isolation, but from unity." The Emperor's words captivated the assembly. He spoke of his own experiences, of the value of diverse perspectives, and of the potential he saw in the alliance with Earth. As he concluded, he turned to Yuna, a proud smile on his face. "In my daughter, I see the future of our empire, a future of innovation, of growth, and of harmony with other worlds. It is time for us to embrace this new era." The Emperor's endorsement shifted the tide of the debate. When the final vote was called, the majority of the council sided with Yuna's vision of cooperation. Prince Zax, seeing his defeat, reluctantly pledged his support to the new initiative. As the council adjourned, Yuna and Philip found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of activity. Plans were quickly set in motion for their immediate return to Earth to address the Omega Whale crisis. As they boarded the ship that would take them back to Earth, Yuna turned to Philip, her eyes shining with tenacity. "We did it," she said softly. "Now comes the real challenge." Philip nodded, his expression mirroring her perseverance. "Together," he replied, taking her hand in his. The ship's engines roared to life, propelling them towards Earth in the monumental task that awaited them. As the Malan homeworld receded from view, both Yuna and Philip knew that this was just the beginning of their journey, a journey that would test not only their skills and knowledge, but also the strength of their bond.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.